Hello, this is Jerry Morton. Welcome to my Finding My Way podcast. This is podcast number 32, Spending Time in My World. Spending Time in My World is a story from my adult years. The collection of stories I have written and am reading to you cover many subcultures in our country that I have interacted with from childhood to my adult and senior years. A more extensive introduction to the Finding My Way stories take place in the beginning of Podcast 1. Regardless of which podcast you are listening to, you will find the story both entertaining and worthy of your reflective thoughts concerning its contents. The stories, as a collection, provide insight into a span of time that has played a role in shaping American culture and influencing its future. The stories provide you with a sense of admiration for the culture's collective courage and our country's commitment to justice and its optimistic willingness to address new challenges. Spending Time in My World. It was a struggle to get into the post office. The two large boxes weren't heavy, just bulky. The top one wanted to slide off as my elbow caught the corner of the door. Once inside, you had to push the next door open, which I did. Peering around the side of the boxes, I could see the line was long. It was so long that I couldn't place the stack on the small dividing counter meant to provide a protective barrier between the waiting customers and those being served by the postal clerks. There was just one clerk working behind the service counter. Over the years, I had come to know her. The clerk knew me by sight and name. She would always ask about my wife if I came in without her. She was patient and kind to everyone. I liked her. No one was manning the other two workstations. It had been a long time since I had seen all three workstations operational at the same time. Usually there were two clerks working. I guess the other one had gone out for a late lunch. The postal clerk was in a prolonged discussion with this gray-haired man. His face was not clearly visible as he was leaning on his elbows, pushing his head across the countertop into the clerk's face. "You're not understanding me. Now listen," he demanded. With aspiration in her face, the clerk responded, "I am listening. It's here on this yellow paper," she stated, pointing to a half-page size slip of official-looking piece of paper held up next to her face and with her other hand. "I said I wanted this mail stopped on Tuesday, and it was stopped today." The guy's voice was raised, reflecting his frustration and anger. "That's what you wanted, but you wrote Tuesday on the paper, not next Tuesday. If you look closely, you can see it was meant to be stopped next Tuesday." "I can't help what you meant. On the paper, it said Tuesday. The courier got this paper. She didn't talk to you. She got this paper and it says Tuesday." "Yeah, but when I came in here last Friday, I told the clerk I wanted it stopped next Tuesday." "I can't help that. The paper you signed," she went on, shaking it in the front of his face, "says to stop Tuesday. That's the paper your carrier got, and the carrier did what the paper told her to do. Listen, aren't you an employee of the Federal Postal Service?" In quick response, but with resignation in her voice, as if she had heard this line dozens of times, "Yes. As a representative of the U.S. Postal Service, I am telling you that I wanted the mail stopped next Tuesday. Not this Tuesday, today." "Look, I'm just a lowly clerk here. I don't sort the mail. I don't deliver the mail. I just stand here and sell stamps and tell people how much it costs to do various things through the Postal Service. Your carrier got this notice and did what it said. I can give you her phone number, and you can call this and get it straightened out with her." "You mean you had nothing to do with this?" "That's right." "Well, you'll give me her phone number. I can get this straightened out with her?" "That's right." "Thank you. You've been very helpful." With that, he calmly exited right. The next customer approached the clerk. The line moved up. I could set the stack of 2 large boxes on the separating counter. There were 5 people ahead of me, not counting the one interacting with the clerk. This was going to be a long, boring wait. Words were exchanged in a hushed manner between the customer and the clerk. Abruptly, the clerk looked up from the customer and scanned the line. "Is there anyone here who needs to take out a money order, send an overnight package, or send out certified mail?" she demanded in a loud voice. No one moved. No one spoke. I scanned the line of people. They just stared at the clerk. Hesitantly, I raised my hand. She looked at me and said, "Yes?" "I've lost my dog." She gave me a big smile and looked directly into the eyes of her counter customer. Expecting to hear several chuckles from the people in front of me, I scanned the line. No one would establish eye contact. Maybe I saw a slight smile from 1 or 2 people in line. It was really just a row of bland faces looking straight at the clerk. I just couldn't stop grinning. I thought my line was great. It was so appropriate for the ludicrousness of the moment. In my mind, I began to work out this skit. I would go into it when it would be my turn to be served. It seemed so funny to me that I almost laughed out loud. With just one more person ahead of me, the second postal clerk arrived to open his station. He puttered around doing this thing and that. I kind of hoped he would continue doing his thing before declaring, "Next." That way I could do my skit. This mail clerk was always one to be short on words when he served a customer. Just last week I'd gotten more words out of him than I had altogether over the past years. He had asked me if I had any hazardous material, glass, liquid, etc., in my package. I said, "No, just a pair of old hiking boots." "What kind of boots?" he questioned as he looked at the address, which stated Danner Boot Company. "Just for hiking in the mountains. I'll wear my Danners when I go hunting in Minnesota." Why, I was born in Duluth. Pretty country. Yeah. Just one more customer, and then it would be me and her. My lady clerk was just now serving the woman in front of me. It was a race against time if I was to get to pull off my attempt at humor. Next, the male clerk said. We exchanged smiles as I squared up to him. With a wink and a nod towards the female clerk, I stated a little too loudly, "She doesn't care about my lost dog," maintaining the continual bland expression that seemed to be a part of his permanent fixture. The clerk looked toward the woman. She did not appear to have heard my comment. She continued her conversation with the woman customer she was serving. "We need to send both of them by priority mail," I stated. "Okay. Do you want stamps?" "No, but it's a tragedy about my lost dog," I exclaimed. "You liked your dog." "Yes, you'd think a representative of the U.S. Postal Service would want to rally all the resources to help a man locate his lost dog," I exclaimed, looking towards the female clerk with a smile. She did not appear to have heard me as she said thank you to her departing customer. The male clerk matter-of-factly stated to the other clerk, "This man seems to be upset about the lack of help he has received in finding his lost dog." "I've heard all of that, and I'm not going there," she said without looking up from her work, but wearing a big smile. The male clerk and I both burst into spontaneous laughter, which was quickly followed by the same from the woman clerk. "Next," she said to the waiting customer. Smiling, my clerk and I said our goodbyes. As fate would have it, the very next day I needed to go to the post office and mail a book to an old friend. Both clerks from the day before were speaking to customers. There were 2 people ahead of me. I hoped to get the woman clerk. As I waited, I began to invent a story about my lost dog. Once again, the female clerk had a difficult customer. "You just don't understand. That figure's not right. Let me explain it to you one more time," he stated loudly. "Yes, sir," she deadpanned back. "When you put the dum unintelligible and the dum unintelligible with the unintelligible, it will be the dum unintelligible." "Yes, sir, and it comes out to this amount," she flatly stated, holding a white and blue piece of paper in the air, pointing to the bottom figure. She went on, "No matter how you put it all together, if you want all of these services, this is what it costs." Again she pointed to the bottom line. "Next," came the calm request from the male clerk. Now there was just one person in front of me. "Well, if you do and then put what's that unintelligible, it's going to be different," he declared with emotion. "Now, let me get this right. What you want is unintelligible, and unintelligible, and unintelligible, in that order, and if that's what you want, then this is the amount," she said, pointing to the paper held close to her face. "Next," came the emotional cry from the other postal clerk. The next time next was called, I would be served. Throwing his head back in triumph, the man stated, "At last you understand. Thank you. You could have said that earlier, and we could have saved time." From what I had just heard, and with the expression on the clerk's face in reaction to his statement, it was pretty clear that nothing had changed. The services requested and the charges had remained the same through the entire exchange. Paying the amount owed, the man was clearly happy that he had made his point. "Thank you. I'll be back next week." "Yes, sir," she said, smiling at him as he left. "Next," said the woman as she smiled and said, "Hello, Mr. Morton." "How are you?" I replied, grinning so hard the smile moved my ears back at least a quarter of an inch. Approaching the counter, I blurted out, "Someone found my dog." "Well, isn't that wonderful? Where was it?" "In Minnesota." "How did it get all the way up there?" "They sent it back to me by U.S. mail." "That's nice," came the reply. She was smiling as she took a peek at me out of the corner of her eye. "Yeah, the problem is they sent it book rate." A slight chuckle came from her throat as she turned to the other clerk to tell him, "They found his dog in Minnesota and have sent it back here by book rate." The man turned his head from the customer he had just finished serving to speak to me. "Did it get hungry?" All three of us burst into laughter. "Is this the book, Mr. Morton?" "Book rate is $3.17. It will arrive a week from Friday. First class is $5.60. It will arrive this Friday." "Well, with this weekend being Labor Day weekend, a week from Friday will be fine." "You've had some difficult customers the last 2 days," I said, shaking my head while maintaining a smile. "Yes, but I'll tell you what. Thank you for helping us laugh. There are days we really need it." As I left, all three of us raised our arms in a salute of friendly departure.